Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sally and this is Secret Life of a Seamstress, my channel where I talk all about sewing and making a handmade wardrobe and sometimes some other crafts as well, like knitting and crochet and other things. Thanks so much for joining me again today if you are a regular viewer, and if you are new to my channel, welcome, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. So today I'm going to be sharing with you 5 more of my favourite dress sewing patterns. So about this time last year I put out a video sharing my top 5 dress sewing patterns, but since then I've had the opportunity to test out a few more dress sewing patterns, so I thought I would share with you my current favourite top 5 and just share with you why I love them, how I found sewing them up, and any tips or tricks that I found helped me along the way with making these up. So I will link my previous top 5 video down below if you do want to pop over and check that one out if you haven't already. So let's get straight into the video. So the first dress pattern I want to share with you today is actually the Davenport dress by Friday Pattern Company. So this one I did have to weigh up last year whether or not to include in last year's top 5, and it didn't quite make it in. I think I'd only made one version of the pattern at that time, so I wasn't quite sure how much I loved it. Since then I've made a few more Davenports and Davenport hacks. So yeah, the Davenport definitely had to make it into this week's updated list and it's actually what I'm wearing today. So if you're not familiar with the Davenport dress by Friday Pattern Company, which I'm sure you probably are because it is a really popular pattern, it's one of Friday Pattern Company's not older patterns, but I guess they must have released it a good year or so, or 18 months ago now, maybe even 2 years ago now, I can't remember. But basically it's a really lovely boho style dress. It has some really lovely details to it. So I'll pop in the line drawings of this dress while I'm talking as well so that you can see the finer details. But the dress has a drawstring waist, a frill to the bottom, some lovely puffy elasticated sleeves. It has an elasticated neckline, which you might be able to see from the dress that I'm wearing here, although this fabric is quite busy. And it also has some really pretty little cap sleeves, or cap frills that go on top of the long sleeve version. And the back is finished really nicely as well with a yoke, which is finished using the burrito method. So lots of lovely little details in this pattern. So I've made around 3 or 4 different versions of this pattern now. The version that I'm wearing today is actually the first version I made, and it's made exactly to the pattern specifications. I didn't do any hacks or anything like that. I made the smallest size because I thought that it would come up quite oversized based on the finished garment measurements of the pattern and based on my actual body measurements. I have to say that the dress I'm wearing today is probably my most loved and most worn dress that I own. I wear it so much, and it's a really good one because it can be worn in the winter time with tights and boots, but it's also a good one for wearing in the spring and summertime as well, because even though it has long sleeves you can pull them up like this, which I do often. But they are quite light and floaty, and you can just wear it with a pair of sandals or a pair of trainers or something, and it looks really nice like that as well. So I think it's a really lovely versatile dress, and I absolutely love this fabric. It's one of my most favourite fabrics ever, I think. It's an art gallery rayon fabric and it's just so pretty. I don't know if you can see from the video but it's floral and it has sort of circles of flowers throughout it, and then in the tiny details there are little bees and little petals and things, and it's just such a beautiful fabric. So yeah, I really do love this dress. So since making this one, I couldn't stop at one. I then made a midi dress version, which I wore around Christmas time from a lovely Atelier Brunette viscose fabric. So to make this version midi length, I literally just lengthened the frill of the dress pattern to make it that little bit longer. For this version, I decided not to include these little frills at the top here, because I felt as though with the longer version of the dress there's quite a lot of sort of frills and things like that on the dress. I didn't want to overdo it and make it look too flouncy, so just removing those little frills at the top there made a big difference, I thought. And I really love this dress for wearing in winter time. Again, I just love the fabric of this one. And yeah, I thought it worked really nicely as a midi dress too. My most recent version of the dress version of this pattern is actually a sleeveless version. And this was really nice to do as well. And I think this pattern works so nicely as a sleeveless dress. So for my sleeveless version, I did decide to include the frills at the top of the shoulder. And instead of adding a sleeve, I literally just bias bound the armholes. And that worked really well, and it gives a really neat finish. The rest of the dress I just made as it was and kept the length exactly the same as the pattern was drafted for, which is a perfect length for me. I think it just comes below my knee, which is actually a little bit longer than the model is wearing the dress in the pattern, but I don't mind that these days. I prefer a longer length on me. So I really do love my sleeveless version as well, and I've worn that quite a lot in the summertime. So my most recent hack of this pattern was actually for a top version. So I think I made this around this time last year actually. So the way that I hacked the pattern into a top was simply to lengthen down the bodice pieces of the pattern. So if you can see from the dress that I'm wearing today, the bodice of the dress kind of ends here and then the skirt is joined on. Because for the dress you obviously have this drawstring here, so the waist is, or the bodice finishes quite high. It finishes on your sort of natural high waist, and then it's drawn in here with the drawstring. So I needed, in order to make a top, to lengthen down the bodice pieces. But other than that, other than lengthening the bodice pieces, I just made the rest of the top, or the rest of the dress, as it was. And yeah, it was really nice and easy to do. And then to make the short sleeves, I literally just shortened the sleeve piece of the pattern that comes with the dress to make some little puffy, short-sleeved, gathered, elasticated sort of puff sleeves. And I really like that top, and I really like how it turned out. And you can probably tell that I left off the frills at the shoulder for the top as well, because I didn't think they were necessary. So yeah, I really do love the Davenport pattern. I think it's a great one for something to get your teeth into. As I say, there are loads of lovely little details in there. I forgot to mention actually that there are some really pretty yoke pieces here at the shoulders as well, which are also lined inside, so the finish of the whole dress is really nice inside as well. There are also pockets here, which are always handy, and I'm not always a big fan of having pockets in viscose dresses. I don't like pockets in viscose dresses at the side seams, but I think because these are built into the waistband, they sit really nicely. So yeah, love the Davenport dress, love the details in it, I love the style of it. It's definitely my kind of boho, hippie-ish, florally kind of dress, and I absolutely love it, so I wanted to include it today. So just before I get into my next pattern, I wanted to give you a quick update on how I'm getting on with my Serious Light. And I'm really pleased to say that this part of the video is actually sponsored by Serious Readers. So back before Christmas, I was kindly invited to try out one of the Serious Lights range from Serious Readers, who kindly gifted me one of their lights to test out and see how I got on with it. So if you're not familiar with Serious Readers, they are a company that build custom lighting solutions with a focus not only on the performance of the light, but also on how decorative they look in your home. The Serious Lights range is perfect for close-up work, so anything from knitting to crochet, embroidery, reading, and anything like that that you might want to do in the evenings and just need that extra little bit of focus for. So I've been using my Serious Light for around 3 months now, and I have to say I'm really enjoying using it. So for my personal light, I decided to go for a floor lamp with a lightweight base because I really like the idea that you could move it around from room to room. So even though it's quite a large lamp, the base is light enough that you can move it from the living room where I normally keep it into the dining room where I might be doing some sewing or something. And I love as well that the neck of the lamp is bendy or bendable so that you can focus the light exactly where you might need it. As well as being able to move the light around to exactly where you need it, there's also an adjustable beam width function and also a dimmer function as well, so that you're able to get just the right amount of focus that you need for whatever you might be doing. I decided to go for the black and gold finish because that actually went with our living room decor perfectly. We have a lot of black and gold in our living room, so I thought that would match just nicely with the decor that we already had, and it really does. I've mainly been been using my Sirius light in the living room because that's where I tend to knit or read in the evenings when the rest of the family might be watching TV or be on their iPads or other screens and things like that. We might not necessarily want the big light on. No one has the big light on these days, do they? I also love that you can focus in the beam width and you can have the dimmer up or down depending on what kind of intricate work you might be doing at that time. I know that I've found my light really helpful when I'm reading in the evenings because these days my eyes aren't as good as they used to be. I do need to wear reading glasses now, and I do have to have a certain amount of light on in order to be able to try and see what I'm trying to read. Since the base of my floor lamp is so lightweight, it's really easy to move from the living room into the dining room, which is where I tend to sew. So if I ever need to do any evening sewing, I can quite easily move my light from the living room into the dining room and have it focus right onto my sewing machine. So I tend to have my main lamp focusing on my sewing machine and then my compact light focusing on my overlocker. And I'll be sharing a bit later on how you can get your hands on a compact light as well, so stay tuned for that. So Sirius readers have an amazing range of custom built lights available. You don't have to have a floor lamp like mine. You can have a desk or a table lamp, and there's even a Gemini option as well, which actually has 2 lamp heads so that you can have just one lamp but 2 lights focusing on 2 different things at the same time. So I really like that option too. You can also have your lights built in different colorways, so there is black and there's also white as well. So I'll pop the link to the Sirius Readers website on the screen here, and of course in the description of this video below as well, so that if you do want to pop over and check out their range of lights, you can do so using that link. And if you do decide to place an order and you use my code SR207, you can also claim a free compact light as well, which I think is a really good deal. These compact lights are actually worth £150 on their own, and as I say, they're really handy to have if you do want a double focus on anything at any time, and they're really lightweight and bendable as well, so really flexible for moving around from room to room and focusing on whatever you might be doing at the time. The offer also includes free delivery, and Sirius readers do offer a 30-day money-back guarantee as well, so if you're not happy with your light for any reason, you can return it for a full refund. So I'll leave all the details in the description below this video, and I really hope that you'll pop over and check them out. Second on my list is this one, which I'll pop in here because I don't have the actual picture printed out. I just have it online where I follow the instructions from the PDF on the computer. But it is, of course, the Taker blouse dress, and I couldn't not include this one because I love it so much. So as soon as this pattern came out from Named Clothing, I knew I had to have it. It was just my style. So this dress has a really lovely empire style waistline, bust line. It has some gathered bust cups here. It's fully buttoned down, and then the dress part of the front and back is finished in 4 different panels, so it flares out, it's quite fitted at your waist, but then it flares out really nicely over your hips, which I really love. And I always love a button down dress, as you'll know if you watch my channel frequently. So this was just the perfect dress for me. And it also has those lovely puffy gathered sleeves that I'm really drawn to as well. And the back of the dress is also finished really nicely with a gathered yoke, a curved gathered yoke as well. So the whole thing is just really pretty and really lovely, and I loved it straight away and I had to make it up. So far I've made 2 versions of this dress. I made my first version as it was on the pattern, but I did need to shorten my version of the dress by around 4 inches because Named Clothing patterns are actually drafted for 5'7" or 5'8", I think, and I'm 5'3", so I did need to shorten each panel of my dress to get it the right length for me. So on me, that actually brought the dress up to around midi length. So that was my first version. This is one of my Minerva makes. So if you do want to read a little bit more about this particular make, then I will link my Minerva profile in the description below. And then at Christmas time, I made my second version of this pattern, but this time I made it with long sleeves so that it was a bit better for winter time. So I made this version in a beautiful viscose fabric from Atelier Dupe. It was the first Atelier dupe fabric that I'd ever bought, and I really loved it because I thought it was really Christmassy, and I was making it around Christmas time as well. It has some little gold glittery flecks through it, and it has obviously a red and black floral print, so it was really nice and really festive. So yeah, I really loved making up my Christmassy version of the taker blouse as well. And similar to the Davenport, I just think it's got some really nice details that you can really sort of take your time and enjoy sewing. So yeah, that's my second choice, the taker blouse dress. Next on my list is this pattern, another Friday Pattern Company pattern, and it's the Saltwater slip dress. So I've actually only made one version of this pattern so far, but it's one that has been on my radar for ages before I made it. It's one of those that you see around everywhere and everyone else was making. I kept thinking, well, I don't know if that would suit me or not, but then I decided to just bite the bullet and give it a go, and I really did love it. It's a really lovely simple style dress. So it's a cami dress, shift style dress, so it's quite straight. It has a couple of bust darts in it, and then the neckline and the straps behind are all finished with bias binding, which makes it really nice and a really kind of neat project to get your teeth into again and just be careful with, and try to get a really nice finish. The straps are actually adjustable, which I really like, so you use rings and sliders as you would with underwear and things like that, so that you can adjust the straps to get a really good fit. And what I like about this pattern is that it is so simple. So if you make the long length of the dress, you actually can include side slits so that you can walk a little bit easier. So the dress is quite fitted really. The back is made in two separate parts so that it follows the line of your back or the curve of your back, so it looks really nice and fitted. But of course, because it's such a simple pattern, it's really hackable as well. So you can make a shorter version of this pattern. You can make it as a top. I've seen people do that and it looks really great as well. And it's also a good one for wearing in all seasons. So of course it's a good one for summer where you can style it as the model has here, just with nothing underneath it and a pair of sandals or pumps or whatever. But also for winter time, you can wear it with a t-shirt underneath it, long sleeved or short sleeved, or a polo neck top or something like that, and it looks really great worn like that as well. So yeah, it's a really lovely versatile pattern, and I also think this one is a really good one for beginners. It's a really simple make, there aren't too many pattern pieces to it. The bias binding, I guess, could be a little bit fiddly, but I think if you're careful and you take your time, it's really good practice, really good accurate sewing practice, and I really enjoyed sewing this up. So as I say, so far I've only made one version of this pattern. I made mine from a lovely viscose linen fabric, really autumnal colours. I think I made mine in around September time. So the idea with my one was going to be that I would style it with the top underneath, and yeah, it was a really nice comfy casual outfit. But I know that I will get a lot of wear out of this in the summertime as well, and I'm definitely hoping to make another couple of these for the summertime to come. And I really enjoyed using the viscose linen for this dress. I think it worked really nicely. So with the viscose linen, you've got the sort of crispness of linen. It was really nice to sew with and it pressed really nicely and everything. But you've also, because of the viscose in the viscose linen, you've also got a little bit of drape to it as well. So it's really nice and comfortable to wear, and it's not quite as crisp and solid as 100% linen can be. I think it would also work really nicely in a viscose or a viscose twill as well, or a cotton lawn or anything like that really. I'm really excited to make another one of those actually in the summertime. The next dress pattern I wanted to include in today's selection was this one, the NYX dress by Closet Core Patterns. So this one, again, I've only actually made one version of, but I can tell already how much I love this dress and how well used this pattern is going to be. So if you've not seen the NYX dress by Closet Core, it's a lovely, again, a really boho style dress with a nod to the 70s, I think. So the NYX dress has some lovely details again in it. So it's a V neckline and it has a gathered waist, an elasticated waist, and you can make it as a really long sort of maxi boho tiered gathered skirt. With big long puffy sleeves. These are pleated and elasticated at your wrist, So you really do get a really nice sort of puffy sleeve. Shoulders have a lovely gathered yoke as well. The back is also gathered into a yoke as well, which is finished with the burrito method. So a really nice finish to that as well. And it's another one I think that I just really enjoyed taking my time over. So you can see with the buttons at the bodice here, these are actually sewn using rouleau loops, which you make yourself and sew in. And for my version, which I'll pop in here, I actually did self-covered buttons too, because I thought they went really nicely and they suited how sort of delicate all the bits and pieces of this dress were. So I really enjoyed sewing my first version of this. I sewed mine from a lovely viscose fabric from Minerva. It was one of the Minerva exclusive range viscoses. So I think with this dress, a viscose worked really nicely because viscoses are really nice and floaty, and you probably want that floaty feel for this kind of dress. But also if you use something like a cotton lawn or something with a bit more structure, then you'd really get a good emphasis to those big puffy sleeves and the gathered tiers of the skirt as well. So with my first version, I made a shorter version because I knew that I wanted to wear it in the winter time with tights and boots. I would love to make the full length version of this. I'm a little bit concerned that the long sleeve version of this would actually swamp me, being quite small, with how much sort of poofiness and gather there is in the sleeves. But I do think this would make a really lovely sleeveless maxi dress, and I'm wondering if I could actually give that a go for summertime. I think if you took in the armholes slightly and finished with bias binding, it would make a really beautiful sleeveless summer dress. So that's something that I'm thinking of for the summertime. Or you could actually just shorten the sleeves and have some nice little puffy sleeves, puffy sleeves, short puffy sleeves as well, and that would work really nicely. I definitely want to try the top version of this pattern as well in the summertime. I love this kind of blouse. I think this would work really nicely in a viscose dobby or something in a really pretty pale colour, and I'm definitely wanting to make one of those when the warmer months come. So yeah, I love this pattern. I wanted to recommend it to you. It was another one, again, that I just had to have straight away as soon as it was released. That doesn't happen very often actually with me with patterns. I tend to stalk them on Instagram for a little while, see how everyone else looks in them, and then see whether or not I want to buy them. But now and again, a pattern like this and with the taker dress just really catches my eye, and I know that I need to have it. And this one was one of them, and so I had to include it today. So lastly, it was a bit of a toss-up to find the last in my top 5, or my new top 5 patterns. It was a toss-up between this oldie but a goodie, the Sudley dress by Nielsen, and also the Tildy shirt dress by Atelier Dupe. So I did make the Tildy shirt dress earlier on in this year and I absolutely loved it, but there's still a few tweaks I need to make to that pattern to get it absolutely right for me. So I thought today that one shouldn't be included in my list and I would go for this one, which is the Sudley dress by Nielsen. So I absolutely love Nielsen patterns. You will already know about my love for the Darling Ranges dress, and this is also a really good dress pattern from Nielsen. So the Sudley dress is a baby doll style dress. It actually has quite a few different versions that you can make. So you can make the version of the dress which is here on the model on the front of the pattern piece, which is quite a short baby doll style dress, with a lovely keyhole opening here which just ties up, and you can actually wear this keyhole opening at the front like the model is, or you can wear it at the back so that you see the tie detail at the back. It can also be made as a top as well, and I think this one is lovely because it's just such a simple style and there are so many different hacks that you can actually do with this one. So funnily enough, I've never actually made the Sudley dress as it is, but I have used the dress pattern pieces for lots of other different hacks, which is why I wanted to include this pattern. So I think it's always good when you can do that and you can mix and match pattern pieces to recreate something new or to make lots of different other hacks. So I've used the dress of the Sudley bodice before and I've attached it to a tiered skirt rather than just having the straight skirt here. And that worked really nicely, and I've also made lots of different versions of the top. So I've made a couple of peplum style versions of the top, and I've also made one plain version of the top as well with the keyhole tie, and I've also made the collared version as well. So I forgot to mention actually that the dress actually comes with an optional Peter Pan collar, which I think is really cute and really pretty, and I've taken that collar as well and I've used it on other pattern hacks. And yeah, I just really love this pattern for that reason really, that it's just a really good one for swapping around and hacking around. So one day I'm going to have to make this dress as it is. I don't think I'd make it quite as short as the model is wearing here, but I would love to lengthen it down, and again I think it would make a really good midi or maxi dress. And you could have it sleeveless as well. You might need to take the armholes in slightly here, but I think it would make a really lovely floaty dress for hot weather. I'd really like a black one actually, just a plain black sleeveless Sudley dress. That would be really nice. Lots of ideas brewing here. I also wanted to include this one because I do think it's a really good one for beginners. It's a really simple style dress, so you can actually line the bodice or you can just bias bind the neckline. So two different options. I think probably lining is actually easier than fiddling around with bias binding. And yeah, you've just got the simple gathered skirt and you're done. And there's not a lot of fitting there either because the dress is oversized. It's got that baby doll smock style feel, so you don't need to fit it particularly well, and yeah, just a great all-rounder pattern. So I had to include that one today as well. So there we are, that's my new roundup of my top 5 dress sewing patterns for woven fabrics. I hope you like what I've chosen today. I'm really looking forward to revisiting some of those patterns over the summertime actually. I only need to get them out and look at them to just have loads more ideas of what I want to do with them. You probably know that I don't actually buy tons and tons of patterns. I do like to use and reuse the patterns I've already got and make them up in different ways or hack them around or combine them with other patterns I have to see how they work. I'd love to know in the comments below what your favourite dress patterns are, and it's always interesting to hear the patterns that other people revisit time and again and see how they work for them. Thanks so much for watching today everyone. If you are new to my channel and you haven't subscribed, I'd love you to consider subscribing, and of course if you have enjoyed today's video I'd love it if you gave it a like as well because that does help me out. I always love to chat to you in the comments as well, so do leave me a comment and let me know what you think of my choices, and as I say, let me know what your choices would be too. Have a lovely day everyone, take care, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye!